Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you so much for joining StriveScan's virtual college exploration program. This program is in partnership with the colleges that change lives, and I have a few housekeeping items before we begin. First and foremost, you're encouraged to ask questions throughout this session via the Q&A button that you see on your screen. When you submit a question, they are sent to our panelists, and they'll work to answer the question during the session and at the conclusion of the session. Your camera and your microphone are turned off. The panelists cannot see or hear you. This is one of 50 individual information sessions and panel presentations being run through the colleges that change lives. We encourage you to check out all of the sessions that are upcoming through this evening and all of the recorded sessions at strivescan.com/virtual/CTCL. And finally, when you sign up for today, you received a barcode. You don't need that barcode for this virtual program. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tasha and Carl.
Hello, everybody. My name is Carl Forbes.
Hello, I'm Tasha Hungate, and I am a current student and senior at the school.
And we are going to chat with you a little bit about Evergreen this morning. Evergreen is also known as the Evergreen State College. I'm going to share my screen with you all so that you all can see that. And what's going to happen is that for the next 30 minutes or so, Tasha and I are going to tell you a little bit about Evergreen, and we're going to invite your questions. While I'm talking, hopefully, Tasha, you can monitor the chat for questions or the Q&A for questions. And then while you're talking, I will do the same and monitor the Q&A.
Perfect.
So we're going to share screen. Oops, sorry, did that run wrong. And this is what live television looks like. There we go. All right, so to give you all a little bit of background information about the Evergreen State College. We were founded in 1967. However, our classes didn't actually begin until 1971. This next year coming up is going to be our 50th anniversary of actually operating classes. We're located in Olympia, Washington. We're one of 6 of the public institutions that are there. And we are one of 29 liberal arts institutions in the United States. And very few of those actually are public. We have over 1,000 acres of land. So when you come to campus, it looks like a beautiful forest. And as Tasha will tell you, that is one of her favorite aspects about the campus, is that it's just a beautiful, lush forest. We also have beach access. And while we're most known for our 4-year programs, our baccalaureate programs, we also have 3 master's programs as well, one in teaching, one in public administration, and the other in our most popular series of programs, which is environmental studies. To tell you a little bit about what is unique about Evergreen, and there are several things that are unique, but I'm going to focus in on just a few of them right now. First one is that we actually don't have majors at Evergreen. So when a student comes to Evergreen, you don't declare a major. Instead, you get to follow your passion. You get to go through and take the courses that you want to take, and you get to do that for all 4 years. There's no list of courses that you have to take. There's no check marks that you make along the way. You just have to accumulate enough credit to graduate. And that's what this particular graphic here is going to show you. Gives you an idea of what that looks like in your freshman year or your first year experience. You're there to really explore, take different courses, try what you think you like, and then as you move up through your sophomore and junior and even to your senior year, you start really narrowing the focus. So if you think of this pyramid right here, the bottom of it is where your focus should be now as a first year student, which is all over the place. And then as you take more coursework, really you narrow that focus a little bit more and more until finally, as you get to your junior and senior year, you're really emphasizing the courses that you want to take, and you're getting involved in different experiences that expose you to that career field or that academic field to see if you like it. You get to choose your own path at Evergreen. So if you're interested in getting a Bachelor of Arts, it's very easy to do. If you're looking at getting a Bachelor of Science, it's a little bit more challenging because of the fact that you have to take more science. So if you are a science person and you say, you know what, I really want to get that Bachelor of Science, or I want to maybe combine and get a Bachelor of Arts and Science, it's doable. And hopefully the picture that you're seeing here, very easy, or at least very easily explained that that's how you do it. I'm going to stop right here just to let Tasha introduce herself, tell you a little bit more about her and what program she's been taking while she's been at Evergreen.
Perfect. So hello, of course, my name is Tasha. I have taken a lot of different classes at Evergreen. My main focus is on United States history and activism. I have really taken advantage of the interdisciplinary structure. I really appreciate how you take one program and it involves a lot of different things within it, because that's just a great way to learn, and that's actually how life is. You're not going to just be focusing on one thing. It's going to involve a lot more to it than just one topic. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but I've done a lot of ILCs and internships as well. And what those are is basically you can create your own class. That is my favorite part about the Evergreen system, is just that you're really able to follow your passion. And I also really enjoy that we do seminars. So seminars are basically, they'll split you up into either large groups or smaller groups. Sometimes smaller groups will come back to larger groups. And you're given a topic or readings that you talk about and discuss with your fellow classmates. I really appreciate that, because I've learned so much more from my fellow classmates than a typical lecture or another thing at a more original college would. I really appreciated this, and it just teaches you about all the different backgrounds that people come from and different perspectives, which really will open your eyes to the world.
Thank you. So as Tasha alluded to, we have an interdisciplinary model at Evergreen. So what that means is that if you look at the image that is in front of you right now, to the left, you want to see what a conventional college looks like. You take art class and computer class and this class and that class, and at Evergreen, do it that way. Most of our students are going to be taking a more programmatic approach, which means that all of those subjects are combined into one course that you take. It's a full-time course. So instead of taking 4 different courses that are going to be 4 credits each, you take one interdisciplinary program that is 16 credits. So that's what that looks like, and that's what that graphic is there to show. As you take these multiple subject courses, what happens is in those courses, you're focusing in on different those courses. And as you lump those together, you can create what's called an area of emphasis. Tasha, what's your emphasis?
My emphasis is on United States history and activism, specifically with justice.
So as you go through and you take your courses, are you looking, as you're choosing courses, are you looking for courses that say or list activism as part of it?
Usually I started off very broad, looking into a lot of different law classes and history classes. And then now as I've gone on, I've really specified more, and I've learned more about what kind of activism I really want to focus on, which is climate and environmental justice. And my time at Evergreen, I didn't really realize that's what I wanted to focus on until this year. So my last year, that's going to be my main focus, is really diving into that topic, so then I can work on what kind of grad school and what I want to do in the future.
So when you take a look at your transcript at the end and you look at your emphasis, you're going to see a lot of environmental courses on your transcript?
Yes, you're going to see environmental courses, a lot of history courses, psychology as well, just because I feel like that's very important, and a lot of law classes as well. I've taken a lot of constitutional law, and then history of activism in the United States.
Thank you. So at Evergreen, you're going to be taking these programs. Now, if you're a student out there that's thinking about something like pre-med or something like that, well, then we actually do have those courses for pre-med. And the reason that the pre-med courses are separated out is because medical schools require that you have these individual courses. So we have those courses set out just for that. And we also have a few other courses that are like that for evening and weekend students and things like that. So if you find yourself being an adult learner and are trying to figure out, okay, how do I take different courses? That's something that we can do also. But most of the programs that we have at Evergreen are those 12 or 16 credit full-time programs. We also have individual learning contracts and we have internships. Individual learning contracts, as Tasha mentioned just a little while ago, those are going to be programs you create the learning objectives along with a faculty member, and then as you meet those learning objectives, they're evaluated on those objectives. So going back to you, Tasha, what were some of the individual learning contracts that you did?
Yes, I love talking about these. These are my favorite part about Evergreen's education system, just because you can really dive into what you're passionate about and what you want to focus on. My favorite one I like to talk about is when I did an ILC and an internship. They were combined together. So I did 8 credits of an ILC where I wrote a 35-page paper. And then on top of that, I did 8 credits working at an internship at a law firm. And what I did to mix those together is I would interview the attorneys about the topic I was focusing on for my paper and then use their interviews in my paper, which was really amazing to be able to cross those over. I've done a lot of different ILCs. I even did one that was involved with a class where I wrote a bill. And then I'm currently working on one for the fall, which is on Evergreen State sports history. And getting a lot of information compiled for that. And what I really appreciate with that is I've had to work with the archives on campus as well, which is really cool. So I'm actually not just reading about things online or in paper, I'm actually dealing with archival material from the past.
Cool, don't mute yourself just yet, because I want to ask you, what was the title of that 35-page paper?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question, actually. I did it my sophomore year. What was it called? I know the topic. The topic was on U.S. drug policy and how that was affected by laws and why those laws were put into place, which was very, very interesting. So I got to look at the history behind it. Going back to the early 1900s and then going further than that into the time of now with a lot of the laws and policies and the prison system that we have in place today.
And you're allowed to take an individual learning contract as early as just...
I was allowed to because I did Running Start.
So, and Running Start, for those who aren't from Washington, is what?
Running Start is a really cool program that in high school, your junior and senior year, you're allowed to actually attend college classes at certain colleges to get college credit before you go to college. So it's basically a way to take more advanced classes or different classes out of college and get free college credit through that before coming to college, which makes it so you can either get more fields of study or in a lot of cases, people will actually graduate early from colleges.
So for those people that are out there in the audience that may be taking advanced placement courses or international baccalaureate courses or dual enrollment, they can kind of get a leg up or a head start to get to Evergreen, and then they start a little bit, they start with a little bit of credit behind them so that they can start doing some of those really interesting experiences earlier in their college career. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it's an amazing, amazing way to get some extra information classes under your belt.
Fantastic. And did you do any other internships? You mentioned the one at the law firm. Have you done any others?
I have not done any other specific internships. I have done things where I've worked with different parts of the campus, specifically like the archives, as I've mentioned. That was not classified as an internship, but I was there getting a lot of information and researching and looking at different archival materials and done some other things as well, but nothing more than classified specifically as an internship.
Cool, but they are available. Sometimes they're on campus, sometimes they're off campus, and they can give you a nice exposure to the professional world and kind of inform us of some of the things that you want to do as you move on past Evergreen. I want to touch in on another unique aspect of Evergreen, and that is the fact that we don't have letter grades at Evergreen. And when people wonder why is it that we don't have letter grades, one of the questions that I always ask is, if you get a B, if you earn a B in a class, what does that mean that you actually learned? What does it mean that you knew? And what was it that you could have done better? A B doesn't tell you that. But when you take a look at one of the evaluations, a narrative evaluation that we get at Evergreen, it kind of gives you a little bit more information about what you did well, and how you can do better in certain things. So I'm going to go back to you, Tasha, and ask you, have you ever received an evaluation from a faculty member that told you how to do something better, and then the next quarter you went and improved on that particular thing?
Yes, I totally have. I really like the evaluations just because it's a great time for the faculty to reflect on the work, and then for also you to reflect on the work that you did in the class. A lot of my freshman and sophomore year, the evaluations, the stuff I would need to work on specifically would be specifics in writing. So maybe some grammatical stuff or sentence structure as well, because I like to make very long run-on sentences. And that was something that my professors asked me to kind of fix and just evaluate if that was my style of writing or not. And then by my junior year, so this last year, that was something I really dived into when I did another ILC on Evergreen State sports history that I'm working on continuing. And I really tried to make my paper a lot more condensed, concise, and used that evaluation that previous faculty had given me.
Cool. I have one more question about that, and that is, as we talk about these narrative evaluations, at the end of every program that you take, every course that you take, you sit down with your faculty and you have an evaluation. In that evaluation, the student evaluates his or herself. We've got faculty that evaluate you, and then you evaluate the faculty. And so I'm wondering, as a student gets ready for these meetings that are all the way at the end of the quarter, Tasha, how do you prepare to meet with a faculty member to talk about your performance?
Well, I've had great experience meeting with the faculty. All my evaluations have gone great, and the faculty has been very kind and caring and very informative on what I can do better, but also what I did well in the class. I usually just prepare by really looking over my past work. So anything I've written, the books that I've looked at, any material. If we usually don't do any quizzes or anything at Evergreen, but if we did some sort of like quiz or work in a group, I'll kind of look over that, and then I'll sit down and start writing my evaluation of myself. And then I'll take that evaluation, usually send it in, but the faculty won't have access to it until after they post your credits and everything, which is really cool. So it's not biased or anything like that. But it's just a lot of reflection on the different parts of class that I did. So how did I attend class? Was I there and present for lectures? Was I really focusing in on my schoolwork? Did I turn it all in? Anything like that, that is what I will then write in my self-evaluation.
Fantastic. And as we talk about these programs that students take, these multi-subject full-time classes that a student takes, there are several aspects of the course. There are workshops for those students who do well with hands-on, seminars for those students who read and learn by reading and by sharing with other students. For those auditory learners, there are lectures, there's field trips, so that you get some experiential things. If you're taking there are lab, group work. You mentioned earlier that you enjoyed seminar. Seminar was your thing. Can you talk a little bit more about maybe some of the books that you talked about at seminar and how that worked?
Yeah, a lot of the books that we've talked about at seminar, a lot of the classes I've had don't use specific textbooks. Instead, we're reading a lot of individual, usually biographies or nonfiction books. Some of the classes that I took, we talked about things like The New Jim Crow, that book, which is very amazing. I'd highly recommend it to everybody. I've talked about some in psychology. We read different experiences. I don't remember the title of the book, but there's a book basically where it's a autobiography of someone dealing with mental health throughout their life and just their experiences with it, which was really cool, especially because they are in the mental health field for their profession as well. So just seeing their background and their take on things as things were progressing through different parts of their lives. So I really appreciated a lot of the different books we read. And as I said, I think I've only honestly had one class that used a textbook per se, which I've really appreciated because it's so much nicer to be able to read a book and get that author's perspective on it, and then read another book a couple weeks later and kind of compare and contrast what you think the authors were talking about and their different takes on things versus reading a large textbook, which is, multiple authors, but you're not exactly being able to compare and contrast the different viewpoints.
Thank you. For questions, I looked in the chat. We don't see any questions yet, but if you guys have questions out there about Evergreen, what it looks like and that kind of thing, please put your questions in the chat. While that, I'm going to turn back to Tasha again and ask you, Tasha, if you could talk a little bit about campus itself. I mentioned that one of your favorite parts of campus is the forest. So talk about that and some of your other favorite parts of campus physically.
Yes, of course. My favorite part about campus, as you said, was the forest. The forest, when you walk into Evergreen, just any of the different parking lots, anything like that is absolutely beautiful. We have 1,000 acres of natural forest, and only 250 of that or so has been developed for the classrooms. So saying that, there's many different trails all across through campus that you can just go hiking on with your friends, or if you just need some time to de-stress and get a little bit of ecotherapy, you're able to do that as well, which is really cool. And a lot of the trails also lead down to the beachfront, as you were talking about, Carl. So we have about a 1/4 mile of beach, which is very gorgeous. It hooks up right to the Puget Sound. So you have a lot of opportunity to have some time in nature. We also have some great recreation. What I didn't mention earlier is I'm actually on the volleyball team as well. I'm also a part of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee too. So within that, we have different sports on campus, but also outside of that, a lot of different opportunities for recreation for students. And then in a larger picture, we have student activities, which takes place instead of Greek life on campus, which makes it great because that's what funds all of our clubs. So if you have any interests or anything about, we have a vegetarian club on campus and different stuff like that, then you and the other students can create your own club, which is really amazing, and then work on getting funding through student activities for any events or anything else that you really want to do. Evergreen's just really there to support the students, so we have many support systems in place. But the thing that I really like to talk about with Evergreen is just the fact that it is more than any other college I've ever heard about, seen anything like that. What you put into your education and your time there is what you're going to get out of it. So, you know, a lot of the classes, like you can push yourself as much as you want in that class, and your professors will open so many doors for you and your learning, and then really support you in your ILCs and INTs. And I just love the communities too on Evergreen. We're so diverse in the different communities that we have on campus, which is really amazing to see representation from all those different people. And I don't know, I can brag about Evergreen for hours, honestly, because I love the school, I love the campus, and I've spent a lot of time there, and I've just really appreciated my time at Evergreen and what it has given back to me as well.
All right, Tasha, we've got questions rolling in from the chat. So I'm going to take some and I'm going to share some with you. So the one I want to ask you is about how is Evergreen similar than to other colleges? And we talked about how it's different and what we do that's unique. But things like the residence halls and dining facilities and that kind of thing, and also your transition when you got to Evergreen, talk about some of those things.
Yes, of course. So we do have dorms on campus, and we have campus apartments as well. A lot of the living is going to be focused on the campus apartments this year, which is really cool. But I like how the campus apartments and dorms, they have a lot of communal spaces. So that makes it so you can interact with different people on campus. And especially like freshman year, living in the dorms, I highly recommend it, just because you can create so much of a bond with fellow people. Like that's a lot of where you're going to be making friends is your freshman year, and meeting new people and really putting yourself out there. So that is similar to other colleges where they'll have, you know, activities. Usually if we have the pool open, they've done things like a movie night and had a ton of inner tubes in the pool. I know one year they watched Jaws one night in the pool, which is kind of funny. But the campus offers a lot of different activities and opportunities for you to bond with your fellow peers as well.
In your first year at Evergreen, did you live on campus?
I did. I was able to live on the campus apartment that year because I had to move in a little bit early for athletics. But everybody who I've talked to who's lived in the dorms as well, fellow teammates and other peers as well, have loved living in the dorms and have loved that bonding experience that comes with that.
And what was orientation like?
Orientation was a lot of fun. So basically we had one big group meeting where they had different speakers. You had all the freshmen there that were coming in. A lot of different people also were able to be involved. So they'll bring out speakers. They'll basically have a Q&A session, and they'll have their own seminar on stage to kind of show what that is like, which is really cool. And then for the rest of the week, you're kind of broken up into different large groups that then will meet and do different activities that you actually get to sign up for. And the year I was there, we actually got sent in the mail a book from the school, and we all were supposed to read that book, and then we came to the campus and had some meetings where we were actually able to seminar as a large group on that, which just kind of gives you an introduction to the learning at the school, and then also is kind of an icebreaker because everybody's in there learning how to do a new thing at the same time, which is really amazing.
Thank you. I'm going to answer the next couple of questions here. One is, are we test optional? The answer is yes. When you're applying, you do need to send us an email at admissions.evergreen.edu, or once you get on our mailing list, you're going to, one of the counselors in our office who is going to be your counselor will reach out to you and introduce themselves, and you can send us an email saying that you want to be considered test optional. There is no box on your application, so you do have to send us a note saying you want to be test optional. And then if you choose the test optional policy, all you have to do is write an essay. So if you're already writing an essay for the Common App or something like that, you can include that, and then that is how you become test optional. Another question is, how are we responding to COVID-19? There's a couple of ways that we're responding to COVID-19. Number one, most of our courses right now are going to be virtual. So this year, are virtual. Tasha, you're probably taking a virtual course this year?
Yes, I did take a remote course, and then I'm signed up for a couple remote courses in the fall as well.
Okay, so that's what that's going to look like. There are some in-person classes, especially for those students that are interested in agriculture, because it's really hard to do farming from home or from your living room. So those courses are in person, but for the most part, they are remote. Even though you can live on campus and do your courses remote from campus. Tasha, where are you originally from?
I am from Eastern Washington, but to specifically, I can see that question that you're looking at of where do students come from. A lot of people that I know of are actually out of state coming to Evergreen. We have a large majority of people all over the nation that will come to Evergreen as well, just looking for that unique style of learning and that kind of different culture of campus.
All right. One of the questions that we have is, do we have support for students with learning differences? And the answer is we have access services, which every student who needs different learning support should go to access services, talk about what their diagnoses are and how things are working for you currently, and so we can try to create those when we get back, when you get to Evergreen. So that's how that works. And that actually is pretty much like how many other colleges do their support services for students who have learning differences. We have another question here that says, what do graduates go on to do? So can you talk a little bit about what some of us have done, and then I'll talk about some things that I know too?
Yes, of course. A lot of graduates actually at Evergreen have become entrepreneurs in different ways. So some of the student success stories that I like to tell, if you were walking around campus and I was there, is a restaurant on campus called the Flaming Eggplant. And that's actually a student success story of someone who did an ILC and started off in a food truck, to then has now opened up multiple restaurant businesses. Actually, one is downtown in Olympia, and actually goes around and teaches different businesses and restaurants and stuff about their different way of running a restaurant, which is very cool. Another person that I like to mention is that we actually had a couple of 3D printers that were donated to the campus as well. And those 3D printers are now free for use to students. And so you can go in and they'll actually have TAs or student aides that will help you learn how to use the programming. And then you can print basically whatever you want. And they'll kind of help you along, which is really cool as well. So those are the two that I mainly like to talk about. But if you've Googled Evergreen before, you've seen a lot of the kind of more famous people as well that have graduated from Evergreen as well.
So we have a lot of students that go on to grad school. They go to law school, they go to med school. As I mentioned before, there's specific courses for med school. So we have success with that all over the country. I have not heard of difficulty that students have had with having no grades and getting into graduate schools and things like that. So that wouldn't be as much of a worry, as much as work on diversifying yourself and making sure that you are an interesting candidate. And that's one of the things that Evergreen students are. They're very interesting candidates. Go off to get a job, or if they go off to med school, if they go off to law school. I have another question here about racial and ethnic diversity, both in terms of student body and faculty and staff. So I'll a quick stab at this question, just to say that we, in terms of statistics, we have about 30% of our students that are students of color. They're from all over the country. We have, I don't have that number for our faculty and staff, but we've got, but it is very diverse. Tasha, in your experience, talk about both student and faculty staff.
Yeah, so as I kind of mentioned earlier, that's what I really like about campus is that we have a lot of diverse communities, and so you're able to get the background from that, from those people. So not only are we very racial and ethically diverse, words, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce today, but also we have a lot of different communities as well. And not only is that reflected in the students, but that's reflected in the faculty and professors who often have come from a lot of different backgrounds, different cultures, a lot of different things like that. Something I like mentioning as well is Evergreen has a very large LGBTQIA plus population. About 35% of our students identify with that community, which is very amazing. There's a lot of support for those students too. We have things like First Peoples, trans and multicultural support systems, and then we'll hold a lot of different activities on campus as well that focus on those communities, building a bond and bringing that back to the larger Evergreen community and whole.
I'll just add to that is that as students come to administration, and we have a pretty diverse faculty and administration as well, and as people come to us with ideas for things that they want to do, we try to bring those to campus. For example, we were doing a lot of different celebrations and recognitions of different cultures on campus, but nothing that was specifically African American or Black beyond the February and Black History Month. And so in 2018-19, which feels like it was last year, but it's the year before, we actually we did a big Juneteenth celebration that's now going to be annual event. So as students come to us with these ideas for, hey, can we do this? Make that part of the Evergreen story and the Evergreen community. I have two questions that I'm going to tackle here. One here is, can you provide an admissions and application overview and talk about financial aid? So I'm going to do that in a few minutes. So I know those are all very important things, and so I apologize. I'm only going to address it in a few minutes, but I'm going to do my best. For admissions, we have a priority date of December 1st. You can find our application on our website. We also are on the Common App, but we're not Common App exclusive. So you can apply to either one of those. Currently, right now, as our regular application is open and the about to be open currently right now to provide a little relief to families over the COVID-19 situation. All of our application fees are waived. So you're more than welcome to apply early to try get in on that. And the Attorney General actually has to tell us, of the state of Washington, has to actually tell us when we have to end that program. So right now, it can go away at any time. So I would say that that's something to do. When your application comes in, we have credential evaluators that we work with that go through and take a look at your transcripts, whether they be from high school or from college. And we also look at your essays that you write. We do not require, as I mentioned before, SAT and ACT. So an ACT or SAT optional or optional option. I know that sounds redundant, as you're applying, and then that's when your decision comes out. When it comes to scholarships, we have a separate application for scholarships. So if you're interested in trying to close the gap in your application, it's a very open process where students can write essays. We on our website, opens up in November, ends on February 1. That's a hard deadline, February 1. Submit essays, do the application, and then the faculty and administration will actually read those applications and award scholarships. We do also have grants that we give out, which are kind of what we call Student Achievement Awards. And those are for students who have over a 3.0 or over a 3.5 GPA. You don't have to apply for those. You're automatically considered for those. So all that happens with application and admission. Then we have the scholarship process, which is separate, that happens between usually November 1st and February 1st. So that's that. Once you're accepted, you're given access to a portal where you can come in and pay your deposit, start looking at classes, and find out a little bit more about how part of Evergreen works. The next question that I'm going to tackle right here is that they've seen questions about Evergreen having problems with declining enrollment. And what's the situation with that? And are we concerned that we're going to shut down? One of the things that is a strength for us is that we are a publicly supported institution. So we're not looking at shutting down. Is enrollment declining? Yes, but it's declining all over the country, not just at Evergreen. One of the big sources of our declining enrollment is our transfer population, because of the fact that up until 2020 has been a year of sorts for all types of things, but up until 2020 in the state of Washington, as well as many of the areas in the Pacific Northwest, we were at almost a 0% unemployment rate, or full employment, which means that when people are working, they don't necessarily have all the time that they used to have to go to school. So has really dropped down for us has been our transfer population, not necessarily our first year population. So there's a little bit of an explanation about that. We're looking at ways to increase our transfer population, and at the our first year population as well. So we're not looking at closing, and we're not in danger of closing at this point. All right, let's see. Are there any other questions that we need to address in the chat?
I think we got
Total enrollment for undergrads. You can take that one, Tasha, because I've been talking a lot.
Oh, ooh. You might have to take this one because I don't remember the numbers today.
All right, thank you for stalling. I just needed to grab a drink of water. Our total enrollment right now for undergrads is just under 3,000 total, and then we have probably somewhere around 200 grad students. So population currently.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see. That's the last question that's in the chat right now. Before we go, Tasha, do you want to talk about what you're going to be doing this year so that students have an idea of what those programs look like?
Yes, so the programs I'm signed up for currently, I'm actually doing something a little bit different than taking your average 16 credit class. I'm taking an 8 credit class and then a 4 credit class, and then I might add a 4 credit ILC on top of that. The 8 credit class that I am taking is really interesting. I'm very excited for it because it is focusing on the election. So we're going to be following the election in real time as we go along with the class. And then what it looks like through the class is that we will be doing individual research projects, looking at statistics and different things, and more of a specific topic that we want to kind of study and follow as the election goes on. So that's really cool. I'm very excited for that class. And then the other 4 credit class that I am taking is statistics, but they're doing it a different way than just your traditional lecture and book, which is really cool. They're actually going to be looking at us creating our own type of statistics and really focusing again on a specific topic that we're interested in. I think we're going to be talking a lot about the community around us and looking at the specific statistics of Evergreen and Olympia. And then we get to do an individual project of breaking down a specific community, looking at those statistics and creating our own versus, sitting down and doing math homework, which I'm very excited and interested for. And then the other ILC that I might do would be a continuation of the Evergreen State Sports History project. That's going to kind of depend if I'm able to safely and following all regulations be able to use one of the parts on campus that holds a lot of the archival materials.
Is grad school in your future?
Yes. So right now I'm still, trying to figure out my life. Don't exactly know what I'm going into, but the main thing that I'm looking at right now is going into law school. Um, but even if I don't go to law school, I know that I'm going to be taking some sort of Evergreen or of grad school program just because Evergreen's really made me love education even more than I originally did, and I just want to continue that more.
Thank you. And I just want to go back really quickly in terms of where students are from. We do have students that are coming from all over the country and nine different countries from outside the country. So I don't like to use the word foreign, but we have the West Coast and the Western states are the ones where we have the majority of our students, but we also have a contingent that come from the Midwest, from the Northeast, so pretty much all over.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this information, and students and counselors, thank you for taking the time to tune in. As you close this box, a quick 4-question survey will appear, so please, we ask for your feedback, and we encourage you to check out the rest of the CTCL programming at strivescan.com/virtual/CTCL. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.